Yo, guys, what's going on? It's been a minute, bro. I feel like it's been at least a year. It could be even longer than that, but I know at least a year since we recorded last. What's going on?
I'm feeling
Man,
good. I'm
yeah,
feeling good. I'm feeling
I'm feeling
good.
great too.
It's been way too long, way too long. But I'm happy we're back, and we have a lot to talk about. What's going on though, Brylan?
No much, man. I mean, the world has changed. Our lives have changed.
For sure.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like we
yeah,
not the same people that
yeah,
were making some of those absurd bets a year ago. Or claims. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I feel like we should start with like an update, like because I feel like I feel like we've matured a lot since the last time we recorded, like
yeah.
and
That's one way to
matured
put
in
it.
the way of like just going through a bunch of life changes, career
Right.
wise, just stuff
Yeah.
happening, and like having to navigate all of that. And like I feel like all of us have like come on the other side of it. I feel like we were all going through like a dark tunnel, like each one of us
Yeah.
individually, like going through like a dark tunnel individually.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've all come on the other side of that, which has been interesting. So I know we all. I was just talking to Rodney before we started. I'm like, bro, I'm just grateful, bro. I'm just thinking back
Yeah.
to like this time even last year, like
Oh
man,
man.
it was
Dark.
it was kind of
Dark.
dark. No, for
Dark.
real. It
Yeah.
was dark,
Yeah.
man. So I don't know. I think we should do a quick catch up. Brylan, you want to start? Rodney, you want to start? I feel like it'd be good to kind of just see like what's new, what's been
I'll
happening
go after
since we last
Brylan.
talked.
I'll go after Brylan. I'll go after
Yeah,
Brylan.
for sure.
But yeah, so man, last time we were catching up, man, I was still over at Northwestern, um, running the entrepreneurship program there. And then really it was a period of time where, like, I would say mentally and spiritually, a change was needed. A change was not necessarily needed, because the environment was bad. But I think, we've all been in situations where, like, you know, growth is calling our name. That's like the best way to, say it. And I think, we've had plenty of conversations on the pod about like where we see the world going and how we want to take advantage of it. And obviously it's one of the core topics we talk about in like our founder strat. Um, I mean, that really was just like moving me. And so, yeah, I ended up leaving, uh, actually, what was that, June? So yeah, like mid year. It was all serendipity. Like just thinking about how it all came about. Um, it was nothing but God. Like, so I think to your point, Dre, like you genuinely do have to be grateful. Um, and yeah, I ended up landing in a really, really good situation, man. So working over at 222. And so we use AI to match people with strangers and then curate social experiences. But I think, yeah, there were a ton of things about this company that like just stood out to me on like, okay, this has like a high probability of being like a rocket ship. And happy to get into some of those things. But yeah, I feel like the situation I'm in now is definitely one that is a lot more challenging, just because I've never dealt with like a marketplace business before and really like building supply and demand like from scratch. Um, it's very, very intriguing, especially when you're dealing with the real world, right? Like physical
Hmm.
things. um, so that's been super fun. I would say the other thing too is like the company is in like crazy growth mode right now. So last year, we went from 2 cities to 10 cities, and then just in like the first quarter alone, we're planning to launch 26 new cities, right? So things are really starting to pick up, and it's the kind of whole ethos of the company too isn't necessarily one that is aligned with like old thinking of like scale headcount. You know, I think it's one that's really aligned with like the modern future of like how do you leverage like AI, and things of that nature to help, expand the capacity of like an operator and how many cities they can manage, right? And that's good for the business, but it's also one where it's a lot of really good lessons. And I think that was one of the things that stood out to me about this company is like if I showed you how we use like AI internally and just the infrastructure we've built, um, I could tell you now you would want to work here, right? You would feel a part of the
Hmm.
future. And so yeah, every day I'm just grateful, man, that I do feel like I'm a part of the future. And I do feel like what we are going after is definitely just like a space I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, because a lot of the AI talk right now is digital, not necessarily
Hmm.
on the physical world outside of like robotics. Um, but yeah, man, that's what I've been up to, man, over this last year. And then obviously, we talk about it a lot. It's a theme in all our lives, is doubling down on health, man. Health is wealth. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
For
been
sure.
been challenging myself in a multitude of ways, man, in that area as well.
What's one thing you want to tell the listeners? One thing that you hope that they take from that experience. Like, what's one thing you could tell them about, when you get that calling, like, what they should do?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think you have to really be able to discern between if you are being called or like what are you being called to do. I
Right,
think I think that's
right,
one of the
right,
biggest thing that just comes with age is um I mean, for me, there's a lot of similar feelings that I had, when I was working at a firm, and I got very anxious, I would say, and impatient because it was like, oh, I want to be a founder, like, oh, I want to go build my own company. And because of
right.
that didn't allow me to be present where my feet were, right? And so even in a good situation, um, I wasn't really there for like the lessons. Where now it's like, nah, this is like a one day at a time. Like I'm not really in a rush to like get to the destination. Like really, my mindset is one of just like, bro, whatever the process is, I signed up for it. Let's get it. And so, yeah, it's a lot more. I would say I definitely feel like over the last year, my mindset has shredded a lot of what is outside of my control to really hone in on like the few things that are in my control and just be super duper good at them, bro.
That's nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Um,
What about you,
Forgive
man?
me, everyone. Forgive me, everyone, for name dropping, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it because it connects to something that Brylan mentioned, where me and Brylan were both at unicorns. Basically, we were early. We had good stock options, etc. Young dudes as well. So like we were feeling on top of the world, stuff like that. And this was 8 years ago, give or take. And I remember,
Crazy to think, bro. That
I,
is crazy
I,
to think.
it's a long time ago, right? And I remember I had a meeting with Shamath Palihapitiya, right, in
I
San
remember that.
Francisco, and Shamath is a great dude. Took a meeting with me for really no real reason, just because I wrote him a good nice message. And one of the things he told me at the time I was 23. And by the way, Shamath is a billionaire investor, most recently known for his win with Grok, the AI chip startup. I think it sold for billions of dollars, and I think he made billions of dollars off the deal. But he's known for working at Facebook as well. Anyways, um, billionaire, and he was like, you made my week. You made my week. This was a great meeting. But before I left, he was like, one thing though, like just slow down. Just slow down a little bit. Like just slow down. And the reason I'm going to tell you guys this story is because I remember hearing that. I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I was like, 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 like, I'm not listening. I respected him, but I had this young man's arrogance of feeling like, okay, well, he told me what to look out for, and I already looked out for that, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to listen to this. And and of course, I didn't slow down. I did exactly what Brylan did. I was at a unicorn. I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't have patience, and I wanted to, and that's what led me to, you know, uh, ultimately wanted to be a founder full time, and I left and started Safe, which brings me to my moment. Yeah, I ran Safe for pretty much 4.5, 5 years, and last time we were on this call, I believe I still was running Safe. I believe if
Mm-hmm.
not, like it was towards the end of at least the VC aspect of it, and and um you know there's without getting into detail. It was a low point for sure, but I don't know if for me it wasn't necessarily emotional, as opposed to, like, not to say that there's nothing emotional about it, but I think what was most challenging for me is that I had these health issues that had started, maybe they had started when I was at Safe, like when I was founding Safe, but I was so focused on trying to get Safe to work that I was trying things, trying to, improve. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong. And I was, spending a lot of money trying these different things, but I was also trying to manage running a company. And ultimately, the combination of being, neglecting health, like addressing it, but still neglecting it because I could have slowed down and tried to really dive deep into it. But I was trying to go to a doctor, this and that. And I went over to these doctors, spent over $100,000 on my health, just trying to figure out what exactly is the problem. And so when SAFE went down, I was left with two problems: a career problem and a health problem. And those two problems, it was very challenging. I didn't really feel like a lot of like, I'll be honest, I didn't feel like a ton of like emotion in there. I kind of
Mm.
I felt more of like physical pain, and then also a weight of like, okay, I know I gotta do something. And so it took me, hundreds, it took me 1,000 applications. I ended up getting three different positions. One was a job at a startup. They were supposed to be well backed. Investors pulled out at the last minute. So I only worked there for 3 months. They laid off the whole team. Then I worked a contract, and then now I'm at a company called Blueprint, working with Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson is a founder from previously founded Braintree Venmo, and sold it for nearly $1 billion about 9 years ago, 9 10 years ago. Um, and he's focused on health, and it kind of actually was weird because I ended up almost finding the thing that was important. Health was like the number one thing. And once I realized that, I changed. So yeah, I'm at Blueprint, right now. I agree with Brian. I'm doing the same thing Brylan is doing, which is like, look, I'm here. I'm focused on the day to day. I'm not getting too caught up in what's going on in the world, not getting distracted, and kind of just being appreciative and grateful for where I'm currently at, and trying to just do the best work that I can right now.
I'm so a few things on that, right? Like one question I have is like to the Chamath point, right? Like it's funny even talking to younger cats because I was talking to somebody
Right.
they're like
It is funny.
they were ready to like whatever they wanted to go achieve. It was about to happen in 6 months, and I'm just like, man, bro,
Yeah.
you've been there, done that.
Yes. Trust me. It's like trust me. Trust me. I'm telling you this for a reason.
But I guess one of the things is like, what do young people struggle with that like is just through experience you end up learning the essence of patience, like the importance of like being patient. So I'd
Mm.
be curious to hear that.
I think that's the main thing. I think that's the main thing. I think that's the main thing. It's just lacking the experience. Even if they have the vision, even if they're, a lot of times these young, guys and women, they be right about their ideas. These people be, ambitious, clear-minded. They're not bogged down by all the trauma of life. They're not bogged down by all these responsibilities, and they're coming with new ideas, fresh things. And but it's just an experience, and literally that's what it is. It's like, so it's actually, I found that, like, that you really can't tell. Like, I think maybe it's worth saying something, but there's maybe some things you might, there's not much you can tell somebody young, from what I can see. And it's not even just also even about being young. It's not, you can't tell somebody something they're not ready for. I don't care what age they are. And there's a reason why people are not ready for the information. And had I known with Shema, now hindsight 2020, I realized, oh, there was some pain behind that advice.
Mhm.
Like, there was some pain behind that advice. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that at the time. And he doesn't have time. He's working, he's trying to, at that time he was probably working with the Grok guys.
Mhm.
Like he's working, trying to do his best work. He doesn't have time to give me a full lecture on why he's telling me that. So he's trying to leave. So I think if I was young, if I was a young woman, young man, if somebody's telling you something, and like, just think about it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You probably still make the mistake, but if somebody, there's a reason why older people
Mhm.
are telling you something specific. Because typically there's something we're trying to drop off in hopes that you use it. But you know,
Man, it's interesting seeing where you kind of landed, bro. it's not a surprise to me because I've been kind of fortunate to kind of see your career arc
Yeah.
over since, I mean, it's really since the beginning, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that's always like clear to me is you always seem to find like these emerging technologies and be like these emerging corners of shit,
Yeah.
like just random shit.
He be
Like
having
if
his
you,
like his finger on the pulse, bro.
bro, always, bro. Like I think back, like every stage of his career, he's always just kind of been like on the edge of some shit that nobody really know about, but that shit about to pop off. And when they do, it'd be a multi-billion-dollar market, and then he'll drop that shit, go to the next shit. That should be really small, and then it'd be another $100 billion market. Then you go to the next thing. I'm like, bro, I've seen you do it time after time after time after time again, bro. So I'm excited to see like what this opportunity like yields for you, bro, because um I know you're really taking this health like journey serious. Like I know like if there's
Yes.
one person that's serious about it, like I know a
Yeah.
lot of people say it, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? There's one
right.
thing to
Yeah.
like say it, but I
Yeah.
know like you're really about the action. You're really serious about it. And so yeah, I'm just excited to see like what this journey like, transcends for you, man. So yeah, bro, I'm excited to see where you go with it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yes, definitely, I'm taking the health stuff very seriously. I got a bedtime, so I'm gonna get off right about at pretty much,
What's the
5:30 my
bedtime?
time.
What's the bedtime,
Yeah,
man?
my bedtime is about, ideally, man, in the perfect world, I'm sleep by 8. Perfect world, you know what I'm saying? But, I might try to, maybe 8:30, you know what I'm saying? Me sleep by 8:30, up at,
He don't be playing
up
about
at
that
4,
shit.
not
He really
playing,
don't.
yo. Not playing, yo. Because you know what? There's some pain behind that.
For sure.
You gotta understand, like, you know what I'm saying, when your finances and your health go to a bad place, because
Oh
before I
yeah.
used to always just bounce back because I had my health. So my finances go down, I'm good. Like, I'll just bounce back. But your
Yeah.
finances is low and your health is low. You can't just get out of that.
Low key, you
And then you
spitting
start
facts.
seeing, yeah, like you start seeing like, people that you start seeing people that, that, pull back or divest, and you start seeing like, the stock go down, in your personal life, but also from a VC life. And you start
Yeah.
seeing, jobs start to look at you with scrutiny. It's not easy to get like, it's like, oh, okay, I see. So, a lot of pain behind that, but no, oddly enough, no, not a lot of emotion, but a lot of
Mhm.
pain though. Like a lot of pain though.
Yeah, bro. I can relate to the pain, man.
Yeah.
So what you
I
been up to?
think yeah, my journey is a little bit different than you all's. Like, I started. Well, okay, I started similarly because I think I've been at the founder journey 4.5, 5 years, whatever it is for you and Rodney. I think we kind of all started
Yeah.
roughly around the same time, plus or minus a couple months. So that's where it started for me, and of course, we know as the startup life goes, where you start out sometimes and where you end is a little bit different, right? And so, of course, I went through the cyclical cycles of being a founder, pivoted a couple different times, landed on something that was working, getting traction, and we were building a company called Jerry AI, where we were building voice assistants for like the home service space, and that product and service is still around. But the problem I had was like really trying to grow it, and I knew too, like I don't think it was a really good venture back startup, and so I kind of put it on autopilot. Had to figure out what was next, and that's where I was really struggling with because part of me really, just in my just pure life, I needed to like go and get a job and like start earning money. You know what I'm saying? At the time, I had a kid on the way. Unfortunately, my wife ended up going through a miscarriage, so that didn't happen. But the preparation and the momentum of going through that experience kind of propelled me to like take action. So I'm like, shit, all right, either I'm gonna go back and take a job, which I didn't want to do, but I knew I had to do. Um, and I had a little bit of trepidation too because I was wondering, and this is crazy that I'm even thinking this, but honestly, I was questioning my skill set. I'm like, what am I actually good at? You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Because I'm like, I'm a generalist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not specifically good at anything, but like, if I need to do something, I can do whatever I need to do. You know what I'm saying? And so I really didn't understand how I could, go after that lane and get back into the career field. So I was honestly struggling with that. And I applied to I applied to hundreds of jobs. And after a while, I was like, no, I'm not really trying to do this. Let me take another stab at the founder life again. And so I kind of revisited that path, started doing some consulting. Luckily, just do some contacts, end up getting a consulting gig with a plumbing company which was using a completely different side of my brain. I don't know shit about plumbing. I don't know nothing about pipes. I don't know nothing about sewage. I don't know anything about that. But I do understand, like, okay, how do you go and build a marketing team? Okay, I do understand, okay, how do you document processes? How do you review those processes and make them more efficient? I do understand, how do you build a hiring and recruiting pipeline? So it was a lot of that experience I was able to bring to this plumbing company. And through that experience of working with them, that led me to my next act, which is really what I'm most excited about, which is private equity and acquiring businesses. And so December 22nd of last year, literally the week of Christmas, I think we closed on a Monday. Christmas is on Thursday, I believe. We signed the closing papers. Me and the partner of mine signed the closing papers to buy this agency. It's a digital marketing agency. They focus on serving like home service companies, medical facilities, and financial service companies. And it's been around for maybe 15 years or so. Been founder led ever since, but kind of hit like a growth plateau. And so we saw an opportunity to come in, transform the business, grow it through additional acquisitions, right? So our strategy is simple. We're trying to build a long-term holding company where we acquire amazing businesses, roll up the cash flow, and just pay ourselves for a long time. I mean, it's really that simple. And honestly, I almost feel like I've discovered like I don't want to say like a money making scheme, but I'm gonna call it that because that's basically what it is. It's a money making scheme, right? Where you go into a business, you find a deal, you put in debt, you put in equity, and you take out cash, and it's literally that simple. And that's the formula. And yeah, I've been able to just do this formula on this one business, and so I got some other deals in the pipeline that I'm looking at. But yeah, I'm running this business day to day and looking to continue to add on to the platform. But yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now.
Man, where you started and where we're at is crazy, man.
I
I
know.
mean, it's like it's a tough thing. Like, you went through something that people do go through. We haven't gone through it, so I knew about it, but I didn't really, it was hard to connect on that, because it's hard to, you know, it's hard, but that it's serious, and it was a lot behind, that original pain probably of like losing that, but I didn't expect you to talk about it, which shows that you really are in a whole different place.
Mhm.
You actually, that's the first thing you started with, like, hey, boom, this is what happened. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And there's a level of vulnerability that I did not anticipate or expect, but but I respect it though. Um,
for
and
sure.
and yeah, I'm definitely, we've been watching each other's careers. You know what I'm saying? So like, ever since I've known Dre, he's been an entrepreneur. We're different, meaning that like I'm an engineer. He's always been a product person or an entrepreneur type person, and it's just crazy how like we started these startups around the same time,
Hmm.
and they kind of went they went in a similar direction.
Yeah.
um, and and we all had these different scenarios that led to, but what is one of the like, what do you take from that journey? I mean, because we have the people listening that we're going to be like
Bro,
surprised that we're here. So what can they learn from that?
bro, I said this before, and this is the number one thing that comes back to me. And this is not even original to me. So I got to chop this up to Bill Ackman because I heard him say this. When he was going through a divorce, he was like $1 billion in debt or like owed a bunch of money. Like he was just really in like some shit. And this was in the time I was in some shit too. So I'm looking for inspiration. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking for this. I'm searching for like meaning in this journey that I'm in. But I just heard him say something very simple, which was compound like progress compounds. And you just
Mm,
got to make a little bit of progress every single day. Like that's it. Just a little bit of progress every day. And so
yeah.
for me, like when I was trying to get my consulting gig, like I was just making progress every day at something, whether it was like learning the newest tools that was out there. I was building a bunch of shit. I was just learning, you know what I'm saying? And just sending emails, doing calls, doing whatever. Got that shit lined up. You know what I'm saying? Then when this opportunity for this deal came through, I had no idea if I was going to be able to get this shit closed, right? Like, again, I didn't have a job up until this point. So I'm like, I don't even know if I got like the financial profile to even close this shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know how this is gonna go, but just working towards that shit and chipping away at it every single day. Um, I think is like the thing that I kind of like walked away from that with, and that's the thing that I'm just taking with me in general is that shit compounds quickly when you just take little bitty
Yeah.
actions every single day. One action a day, whatever it is, you'll look back and that shit will be huge. So I don't know. That's my takeaway from the journey.
That's a pattern. That's a pattern. That's the pattern. Because that's how I feel right now. I feel like
Yeah.
just focus on today. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on today. Keep
Yep.
focusing on today. Tomorrow will be fine. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Keep focusing on today. Everything, nothing to worry about tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you start slacking today,
Yeah.
you might got something to worry about tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But
No, for sure.
focus on today. You ain't gonna have no problems for tomorrow. Yeah.
So
Absolutely,
what
man.
y'all been focused on in the world, man? Because there's a lot happening.
Man, shit. Where have we been able to focus on? Because there's been so much stuff happening. I think that's the real question. Like, shit, focus is pulling everywhere. It's like, where have we been able to get some clarity on, man?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I've taken a step back from AI, honestly. Um, I feel like I just zoomed out because it's just so much stuff happening every single day.
Yeah.
I'm having a difficult time dissecting between what's actually real, what's actually happening, and then like just what's part of like the traditional news cycle of just information that's just being propagated out of there. That's just not really that meaningful. So I really don't even know what's happening in that world. I know there's a lot of shit happening. You know, I know Claude has been going crazy. I know Gemini has been going crazy. I know Elon going crazy with the physical AI. But honestly,
Mhm.
I don't even know like what's really happening in that space. So I'm interested to like just get caught up because I know Brylan. I'm sure you has deep into it. You've never pulled out.
It's yo. It is rare that you have all the biggest companies go to war on the new technology. That's
Yeah,
the one thing I want people to really
yeah,
sit on a bit. It is rare that you have all even since somebody told me a couple of days ago. Shout out to I think David and Josh, and they made me realize. People will say like AI might be people might be losing jobs due to AI, right? And normally what people are thinking is, okay, their job got automated, and so their job is gone. When they said it, what more likely is happening is, they're reducing expenses so that they can invest more in the future in the infrastructure of AI, which I thought was an interesting way, which was interesting. I thought that
hmm
was very interesting because that's also scary. And also, I guess to the person who has the job, it doesn't really matter. But maybe I just wanted to share that with people in case, like, because I think when I see the news, it's like AI job loss and stuff like that. And, I'm seeing all these different things, these different tools. But I thought that was an interesting insight that I thought was very important to kind of get out there, which is that these companies might start even, they're investing in the future. So they're slashing down, not because the jobs have been automated, but because
hmm
they're trying they're at war. They let's just
I'm
slash more people, and then invest in the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you, man. I think yeah, whenever I hear about job loss in AI, if I'm gonna be honest, I think so much of it is the delayed consequence of the pandemic. Like I feel like so many
That's a
like
big part of it too.
yeah, like
That's a
so
big
many
part of it
companies
too.
so many companies like overhired, and I just
hmm
don't think we understood how much. I think the reason why the AI narrative like is the one that's being told and pushed is because if any of those companies that are doing those type of layoffs don't frame it that way, the narrative around their stock is going to take a hit. Versus like before, if it's like, oh, they're doing layoffs, it used to trigger in somebody's mind like, oh, like are they overspending? Is there something wrong with potential profits? Like something related to the business where now it's perceived as like, oh, they're replacing folks with AI. And I think the reality is like at least based off of some of the stuff that I've been reading, enterprises and companies are still trying to figure it out. And Mark Andreessen, he did a podcast recently with on Lenny's podcast, And he said the way that he's been looking at it is through the idea of job loss versus task loss. And he said he actually lives more in the camp of like task loss, where he's like specific tasks are probably going to be replaced, but new tasks are going to emerge. And I kind of agree with him. And like the analogy he used was like the secretary for a lawyer. Before in the 1980s, the computers and all that, like the secretary was the one that sent the emails, et cetera, et cetera. Then the computer came and you no longer needed your secretary to do that because, the lawyer or the executive could easily just send their own emails. But did that remove the secretary? No, they just got a new task. And I think that's where I think in the short term, a lot of things are going to go. I think like even when I think about my workflows, it's not necessarily has like changed or eliminated the job, but the task of the job has like evolved because old tasks have now been automated. That's how like I've been thinking about
Yeah, I thought it's interesting to me, like the wording, right? Because to me, I feel like we end up in the same the same outcomes, which is jobs are going away. like
Yeah.
whether we want to call it the job, the
Yeah.
task, the job to be done, whatever wording we want to call it, the functional role, right, that some people are doing within these companies, I think will definitely change. I think the thing that's different here, and I've always kind of been on this side of the fence since the
it.
beginning, right? When Chat GPT first launched, it was always obvious to me where it was gone, regardless where the current state is. I don't even care what the current state is. I'm looking like 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line. I think what's different about this technology, and maybe this is the thing that it could be wrong, right, is that I think the speed in which the transition will happen when the switch does flip is going to be significantly faster than for some of the other previous technologies that we've seen. And so what I'm saying when I see that is that I see those tasks kind of eroding, but I don't necessarily see those new tasks opening up in abundance to immediately be a one-to-one replacement for the old task, right? Like new tasks will come along, right? It's just like in farming, for example, right? Like, sure, you might have had before, like industrialized farming equipment became popular. You might have needed 3 or 4 people to do one job, each person serving one function in that role of tasks that need to be done. And then you get a piece of farming equipment. Now you only need one person to do it. Well, the same thing could be said there, which is like, yeah, there is a new task here, but it's just less task, right? It's less task, which means you need less people. So now this new farming equipment is here. Now you got one person doing that. So now you got to go find another role for the other 3 people. And I don't know if those roles are going to be opening up in abundance is equal as they are being replaced. And I think that's the real concern that I have, which is what happens when you have a class of highly educated individuals, like white collar workers who are software engineers, who are product managers, who are designers, who are, accountants, financial analysts, these people that work at Deloitte consulting firms, and they can't find employment because those tasks the tasks for them are just not as in abundance as they once were. Like what does the economy look like in that world? I think we're going to get there faster. I mean, I hope not. I mean, that sounds like the doomsday scenario. But I can't see how he put the cat back in the box, or bag, sort of say, to prevent that from happening. I can't see it. Like, what new task would you give to a person that worked at Deloitte if if their entire job is looking at data, inputting that shit, and presenting it to clients? If that's all automated, I mean, what are you going to give them?
Yeah. I see Dre's point. Um, and I would actually think that I would agree with that because, well, one, I think all these points can kind of coexist a bit. Like, so for example, with Brylan, saying like, a lot of this AI, news thing is a little bit somewhat overblown, especially when they're pointing at AI. Because, for example, you know, um, there was a lot of government jobs that got lost,
Mm,
hundreds of thousands of those, and that had nothing to do with AI. And that's just one sector.
Mm.
Although it was the public sector, it was one other another sector that kind of added to the amount of jobs that are being lost. But then you do have certain tasks being lost that we don't typically consider. So for example, every time somebody wants to hire a graphic designer, they may not if ChatGPT can do a similar graphic. All these
Mm.
like kind of like little smaller tasks that people maybe they weren't that big, but they were feeding somebody's livelihood. And because in some states, all you need is $2,000 a month, and you can maintain. So and so there's these all these little smaller tasks that I believe that is eating up, and maybe we don't respect those jobs as much, so we don't really talk about those as much. But that a job is a job, a task is a task. You know, especially to the person who depends on it. Drivers. Not necessarily drivers being really fully replaced, but as you can see, like there's been some effects, especially in San Francisco,
Hmm.
with share of the market. And in that case, it's clear that AI, is affecting job loss in that case. Because if it directly affects the ride share market, then that's a one to one. But I do agree with Brylan from the standpoint of this isn't all about AI. That's typically companies use scapegoats. For example, for many companies, um, so it's funny because some companies hired a lot during COVID. Brylan's correct about that. But there's also another set of companies that let go tons of people for similar reasons, being COVID, and they already had employees that they needed to let go for one reason or another. But COVID came around, and it was the perfect scapegoat for the moment.
Mm.
So that does happen in businesses, and that does happen. So it is important. But I also don't want something very important to be missed about what I said earlier, which is that um, if companies are letting people go, maybe not because the task has been automated or their job has been automated, but these big five companies, these top companies, are investing tons of money into AI. There
Hmm.
is a correlation there. You know what I'm saying? Because it may not be okay, the job got automated or the task got automated, but if we're trying to invest into the future, you know what I'm saying? We might say, hey, look, we can either invest less or we can keep these jobs. You know what I'm saying? And they might be saying, well, we want to win this war. So we might have to cut some of these people. And then it ends up being due to AI, but not in the way that people think, like not in the way that it's assumed. So I just wanted that, like, to throw that on the table. Um,
I want to
but it's go ahead.
I want to add some numbers to this because to both your points on like how fast this is happening. We really have to take a step back and really like accept that it's really been 3 years. It probably feels like it's been 8 to 10, like with the amount of progress that
Yeah,
we, but it's really
Hmm.
been 3 years, and we've seen generational companies that not only are part of people's lives, but like they're at the financial scale of like the top 10 countries in the
I
world,
know,
like,
right?
in terms of, like
It's crazy.
GDP, right? But yeah, this is interesting. So this was so last year, to like frame this. So last year in 2025, the five like big companies, so Google, Microsoft, Amazon, you name it, Meta, etc., they spent around $400 billion on AI. Most of this is obviously probably going towards chips, data centers, whatever. This year, just after like their earnings call, they have adjusted like the number that they gave the market in terms of what they intend to spend by 40%. So this year they intend to spend $600 billion. That is not a small amount of money. You know what I mean?
No.
For it to jump that much, and I mean that number is not even included, Tesla, because Tesla, isn't to the point where they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars yet, but they're still spending 20 to 30 billion dollars, which is not a small amount of money. There's so much money going into this, and I mean you saw the large acquisition plays. So I really do feel like, yeah, it's interesting because one of the things I want to talk about is like everything kind of like happening in the world outside of tech. You would think that the world would be slowing down, right? Like we last year alone, just because of all the terrorism stuff, you heard that like, oh, we were going into a recession, and that part of the world did not slow down, right? And it seems like, yeah, there's still so much of this exponential curve in terms of progress, but also in terms of like the impact we're going to see from this kind of investment, that we really don't know what the next year may even look like, right? um, So yeah, it's interesting.
The only way to justify the level of capex that I'm seeing spent is you gotta like you gotta decrease headcount. You know what I'm saying? Because look, as a business, your most expensive operating cost is definitely gonna be employees. I mean, that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So think about it. These companies, and then I don't think this is spoken about enough, right? If these companies are investing this capex, they obviously are expecting to see some return. Well, what does that return come from? Right? Where does the $80 billion that Microsoft is going to spend on AI? How does that get reflected? Right? Like they gotta come through somewhere. They gotta come through either growing the market, right? Like top line revenue. They gotta come through shrinking bottom line, right? Like reducing operating costs and getting better margins. There's only so many places that can come from. And so I think there's either a thesis that the world will spend more money on these services to justify this return, or that the future of these services will just have such higher superior margins that the investment today just makes a lot of sense. So I don't know. I'm just always interested in not just how much money is getting spent, because I think it's easy to just burn money when you're making money, but it's like what's the real theory and thesis for how this money gets returned? Because I think that's also what investors want to see too, right? We've seen it even with Meta. Their behavior and spending has shifted. They were going head in on the metaverse, spending enormous amounts of capex on that. Wall Street wasn't happy, and they've dialed that shit back and now redirected that more towards AI. And so companies are following what Wall Street wants. And so I'm just I don't know fully how they're like making these arguments for how this money will get returned. But I mean, it seems like it's a bet on both sides. Again, better margins, and there's going to just be more spending happening in the space, right?
There's gonna be tons of spending. One of the most obvious ones that they're banking on is, you know, they're definitely banking on, and this actually can segment into another topic we wanted to get to. They're banking on developer spend, and just to be clear about what I mean by that, you know, you have Claude, you have ChatGPT, Grok, their APIs, right? And so a lot of developers are using their APIs for coding. Um, you have direct products like Claude Code or Codex, um, and people are using those more and more every day. You have other tools, that are being used to automate the dev workflow. For example, automate code reviews, etc. Um, you know, um, and these things are getting so good that you know, coding it will never be the same. It's entirely different than what it was literally just a handful of years ago. You know, and it's to the point where I have only heard about Stack Overflow one time in the last year.
Same, same.
And it's something that is so quick how stuff like that happens. It's just very quick. We just forgot about them, just like that. We just forgot. Like it was that was a tool that everybody relied on from the entire time that I had been an engineer, and suddenly we just forgot about it. You just forgot about it. It's like
Yeah,
no one
Stack
forgot
Overflow was
about it.
critical. It was critical back in the day. Like if you ran into a problem, you was hoping you could post
Yes,
that junk on Stack Overflow and get an answer to it.
Facts.
yes, exactly,
You had to wait for
exactly.
that shit. You had to wait for somebody to respond back to you. That shit is hilarious, man.
And now it doesn't even come up. It doesn't even
Mm.
come up. Not in the brain, not in the conversation. Nobody even cares. Like, and they're probably fighting for their life. Like, but nobody cares. Like nobody cares. And it's probably a dead business. And to add on to Dre's point, those are lost jobs. Those are going to be lost jobs unless they can find a way to somehow pivot, which I highly doubt. Because it's just one of those businesses that relied on you know information,
Hmm.
and they're providing information at your fingertips automatically in these AI models. Um, so I can imagine they cut down at some point if they haven't already. Um, and maybe those are going to be the businesses that we look to if they can figure out a way to I guess compete and stay alive, because maybe they have the
Mm.
blueprint for the future in other roles. You know what I'm saying? And so that would be an interesting thing to maybe pay some attention to.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Do
I
y'all
think
think do y'all think software as a service is dead? Or not dead, not dead, dying. I'll put it that way, dying, because it's obviously not dead yet.
no.
In what
I just
way?
think I just think it becomes more fragmented. Um,
More than it already has been.
yeah, yeah. I think and the reason why I say that is like yeah, I don't think it's dead because eventually I could see these products getting to a place where like it knows it probably should just generate like a new UI on demand for like a non-technical user. But I find it like at least non-technical folks that I talk to, very few are like aware of like the capabilities of a Claude or OpenAI to be able to generate software the way it is. Obviously that will change, but for right now it hasn't. I think when I think about yeah, just the number of products I've built and like the number of products other people are probably building too. We were having this chat the other day you know, around like distribution. I think a lot of people are really realizing that distribution is really hard. And so because of that, I think what you're going to end up seeing is at least right now there has not emerged another distribution channel. Like TikTok is a you know hit or miss for a lot of people nowadays. Yes, if you know have the initial revenue, maybe you can you know run an ad play or something like that. But I think what you're going to end up seeing are a lot of things being built that probably like you know maybe one to a handful of people maybe use you know within the company, and then even so like if it does grow it could still be like a good like side hustle type of business. I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of those things, and I think it's going to be able to pick apart some of these larger like SaaS platforms. The first one that comes to mind is like I feel like the CRM like in Salesforce. uh Everybody's been attacking them from a multitude of different angles, and so yeah, I think that's kind of what you're going to end up seeing. I do still think there could emerge a role for some of those larger platforms, but I do think it's probably going to depend on like the vertical.
Hmm.
It's dead. It's dead as we traditionally know it. The days of easy high margin off of just knowing how to code are pretty much probably over. The advantage back in the day used to be like, look, I know how to code, and I know you're not going to learn it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like that was an advantage back then. It was like, look, you can't learn this, and if you could, you ain't gonna put the time in. So I'm gonna have to tax you for that.
Hmm.
And now you're still gonna have people who pay the price, but there's gonna be some people who literally just say, let me just do it myself, and they will get further. Now, what you might find is that the typical engineer still might have a way to make some money through maintenance and infrastructure issues and configuration issues, etc. Because you know I think that that's still important knowledge that you're not going to be able to. At least I don't think you're going to be able to get around. But traditional software as a service as we know it, I do believe it's probably dead. For example, I'm using Codex, right? And Codex Mac app, it just came out last week,
What is
and
Coda?
Codex is it has multiple forms, but the form that I'm using is a Mac app. That it's an app where you talk to it like ChatGPT, and it helps you make apps and websites, or other general software, and you just by talking to it, and it handles everything. It handles the terminal, it handles Git, it handles, and all these things. If you don't know how to code, these things may not make sense to you guys, but that's even more of a reason why it's really impressive. It handles a lot of that stuff. It can run things, terminal commands, and all these different things. Now, I don't think it's as hands free as Cloud Code, because what I hear is that Cloud Code is a little bit more autonomous. And I think that comes down to a design choice. I think ChatGPT is still trying to keep the human in the loop a bit,
Hmm.
when it comes to the creation of software. Where I think, where I think is Cloud Code seems to be more hands off, um, and which is nice too. But there's probably some benefits to. There's pros and cons probably to both approaches, but essentially you can make apps. I was able to make a version of an old app that I had made years ago. I was able to make it in, you know, the first version of it in a couple of hours. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm like, just kind of changing it, editing it, right inside of a chat thread. So, so you can either type, or if you wanted to, you can just talk to it. Like, hey, I want this app that delivers, pizza via drone. Can you like make that, real quick? You could talk to it just like that, and it'll build it. You could talk to it like you would talk to a regular human. So, um, that is what it is, and I think stuff like that. But there's going to be an arbitrage period though, where people who have the ability to make these apps quick with Claude Code or Codex, etc., or just ChatGPT or just Claude regular, there's going to be a short arbitrage period where everybody hasn't caught up to that speed, and
Mhm.
you could make some money, by just having that arbitrage of information and tools and skill sets.
Yeah, I need to jump on Codex. It's been a while. I mean, I downloaded it, but I haven't played around with it. It's been a while since I played around with any of the coding tools. I'm kind of like, damn, what do I build?
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. I
That's the
agree
problem
with you
now.
though.
It's not like like what cannot be built. It's like, damn, what could I build? Like I could build
Yeah.
anything, but it's like, what do I
It
want
actually is weird though, right? Sometimes
to do?
we think that the bottleneck is like getting it done. But then once you have the power to get something done, it's like,
Yeah,
what do I do? Like it's kind of like people are like, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, then
exactly.
what? Then what?
But
You're like, yeah, like it's like, and that's tricky. That can be tricky.
no, no, for real, that's really how it is. I know internally, like for the company I just bought, of course, is a marketing company, so we do like SEO services, PPC services, social media management. There's a lot of opportunities there, of course, right? Like especially on the creative side. So I have been, I am starting to think about it more tactically, as in like kind of what Brylan was saying, in the sense of like, okay, what are those tasks that could be automated? Where are those tasks where you can use AI to relieve, give the human some time back? Because at least in our business, time is everything, right? Like we're constantly pushing against having to get something done in a constrained amount of time, right? We're trying to get as much as we can get done in a constrained amount of time, right? Because we want to balance client hours and our own margin, right? And so, as a business, that is something I'm thinking about, because payroll, shit, I'm about to run payroll in a minute. It's about to be like 30 racks just for this cycle. You know what I'm saying? So I'm already thinking. I'm thinking like, okay, if we want to scale this up, then this is a human input problem. But then how can I get better margins out of this shit? So I am looking at how we can use these tools. I haven't landed on anything yet. I'm not overly optimistic that like this will come in and like be fully autonomous and like we're about to cut all these jobs and all that shit. But I am thinking about it at a task by task level, and yeah, I guess going back to what I said, progress compounds. So I think over time, we can weed away a lot of these roles that are unnecessary.
Yeah, and I mean that's the other thing too. Is like, I mean, because we've haven't had this conversation in a minute. I know one of the themes that we've always talked about has been robotics, and that
Mhm.
is making very quick progress. And I think, yeah, when I think about what could really like shift the world quicker than some of the AI software products, I do think it's going to be physical world AI. I think you are starting to see it. Not only the last few years has been about can it work, and I think with what you're seeing with Waymo is can you scale it, and that is
Mhm.
just pure operational like excellence. Like that doesn't deal with anything technical. It's like can you go into a city and deploy that? And I don't think we've really thought through. Like I see it every single freaking day, but like think about the people that are delivering your DoorDash or pick you up in an Uber. Those are the very people, if we're just going to be honest, are like definitely facing a lot of like the social unrest across like our communities right now. um
So what do you do if you don't? Do you go like learn a new skill? Like,
they're
because
not
there's
even
millions of
thinking about it.
there's
Like
millions.
the first thing is you got to get aware. I think it's one of those things where people may not like. I genuinely don't
Bro,
think
if you a driver right now, a delivery driver, You don't think they're thinking about this,
No,
bro?
if the thing is not in your city, you are not thinking about it
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
until it is, and then it's too late.
That's fair. Yeah, but yeah, by the time you see the Waymo go past you, it's already too late.
Like, think about what was the stat? It's like I think I might misspeak on this, but it was in San Francisco where Waymo has been present. It's now made up like 20 to 25% of what the Uber and Lyft traffic was. You know how fast that is?
It's just a better product. It's a better product.
So,
It's just simply a better product.
how did Uber miss this wave, bro? Like, are they gonna be dead? I'm kind of I'm still bullish on Uber, like being like a good long term play, but I have to be honest, it's kind of crazy to see Waymo essentially just eat their food, like just come into a city, deploy, and just be better than them, cheaper than them, better than them, faster than them. Like it's just a better product, better service, better margins. Like, I mean, you got to be honest about it from a business standpoint. It's kind of exciting, but I'm just like, damn, how did they miss that?
Then they lost Travis. That's just. I think that's real simple. Travis was the
Yeah.
one that was really leading it all. You know, Travis, like us in ways, fell down. It was like there was one. I just remember like he was the guy until he wasn't, and it was
Yeah.
just back to back to back. That it was bad to the point where he's not even. He rarely comes out publicly. He used to be on every magazine and every you know I think Travis had the vision. I don't think Travis would have allowed that to happen because he was, it was one thing he was passionate about. I believe he was passionate about. I think that when you hire a CEO afterwards, they can do something decent. But I think like it's the timing matters. I think the CEO's job was just to keep the jobs coming and to get the numbers correctly. But he wasn't the, and I see him maybe being able to create a good or decent business, get the numbers right, the operations, etc., but not necessarily drive the vision. And I think Waymo was an obvious, it's obvious, like, and it's so much better product than Uber. Uber is like, I almost would think the only way Uber survives is literally through partnerships. Because
Mm.
you hop in a Waymo, people should do two things: do the experience in the back seat and do the experience in the front seat. Those are two different experiences, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why I'm saying that. I don't have time to hop in it now, but you know, do the front seat and do the back seat, and it's just simply a better product than some random person pulling up and giving you a ride. Especially if you consider the fact that of like women, feeling like all these safety problems, safety issues, and being kind of concerned. Now, as a woman or a young woman or whatever, or if you have teenagers or whatever, you'll probably feel much better about allowing them to ride around in maybe a Waymo than you would like some type of where there's ultimately a stranger in there, whether or not they have reviews or not. It's ultimately a strange person in there. So we're kind of leading to this trustless type of world where essentially, like, we went through a era of trust where, okay, I trust my DoorDash driver, I trust my Uber driver, I trust all these different, and it required a person in it. But you know, and I think that's over. I
Mm.
think it's heading to over because people would rather not trust. They would rather not trust it. They would rather get their food delivered through the Waymo and DoorDash partnership than it coming from some person who you know is mad that you maybe didn't tip, or coming from some person who is just, even if they're not mad, they're just they're doing Uber, having a hard day. They're not making a lot. What I'm saying, maybe they're hungry or something like that. Like, there's a lot of so we're kind of moving to a more
Mm.
it's kind of more of a cutthroat system where
Facts.
if you're on the outside of it, if you're on the outside of it, it's gonna be hard. But if you're on the inside of it, you're gonna be kind of safe. You're gonna
Mm.
be, you know, not gonna have to deal with nobody, not gonna run into anybody, and almost be seamless.
Mm. Man, I see Waymo as a logistics platform, and so while right now they're really focused on like just rideshare, which is a massive opportunity in and of itself. I mean, that's probably like $1 trillion opportunity. I think there's other applications for it as well. where they just gonna go crazy, and it's pretty remarkable. I mean, again, it's still in the early days, like I said. What was it, 3 years, 4 years since all of this has really kind of taken shape? But it's kind of remarkable to see one company like Waymo have the ability to effectively disrupt an entire sector of the economy, which is drivers. Like if you're a driver,
Yes.
I don't care if you're a limo driver, if you a truck driver, taxi driver, if you are a driver, you should be looking at Waymo as a real threat to your job. And they're starting with one corner of of it, which is just rideshare. But that in and of itself is massive. There's millions of drivers, and so as we've talked about, like this disruption is slowly happening. Then what do those millions of people do? Now they got to go get training. You got to have infrastructure to retrain them. Train them in what? What can they do now? Like I think that is a real conversation that needs to happen. Like, and I mean, it is going to have to at some point. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. A few years ago, this is, I try not to laugh because it really is not funny, but like, yo, it is sad. Like a few years ago, I was in an Uber, and this Uber driver was talking about just like, I think he had, this is before Waymo had been like, even like seen around LA really. And he was talking about, you know, autonomous cars. One day he's like, yeah, they would never do that to us. They would never do that to us. And I'm like, it's not personal, bro. Like, it's not personal, bro. Like, like, I just let him have. I didn't even say nothing. I just like, cause I could tell that was his hope. But that kind of made me think, like, dang, there's gonna be people who, and I think that there's a lesson in that, which is that don't sit around hoping. You know,
Hope is not a strategy.
don't yeah, yeah, don't sit around hoping. If there's a chance that things go left, if there's a chance, then maybe consider that. Maybe really consider that. If there's a chance that things might go left, maybe consider what can I do, and what can I do to prepare. Because even if things go left, then you're like, okay, I'm good. Or if they go
mhm.
left before you think so, at least you're not starting from the ground. And um, I'm thinking that a lot of things, just because I don't think the software job is going away, doesn't mean I'm not trying to put things in place.
Yeah,
I'm putting things in place right now. With the assumption that that could possibly happen.
Yeah,
one hundred
I think
percent.
one thing I would really push people on is yeah, the big thing that's happening now, and I think this is going to continue to get sped up. It's actually wild. But yeah, over the last year, the technique that has really been unlocked is reinforcement learning, and specifically this idea of verifiable rewards. What does that mean? Like, all that means is if something can easily be separated into right or wrong in relation to whatever the task is, it now can easily be, automated. And I think that's why you see code being the first one, because it's either the code runs or it doesn't. But I think what
Hmm.
you're now starting to see is the exploration of that kind of like mindset in other areas. I'm sure you just saw like the other day, it was announced that Anthropic and Goldman Sachs were working, closely together to automate a lot of their, investment banking task, right? You've
Hmm.
also seen that these companies are starting to hire like financial experts. It's all to get to this point of like, what how do we get, how do we build a data set of like right or wrong answers? And I think this same type of mindset can be applied to you as an individual and your individual like tasks. So like an example that I'll give you, right, is I've gotten very diligent like when I'm doing like sales prospecting, like about labeling uh the email thread or even like the call notes, etc., when it turns into an actual like deal, meaning like we got a signature, things are like ready to go, and when things are actually like it's closed but it's we lost the deal, right? And the reason why I've gotten good at that is because like after quite a while, the patterns just start to emerge. And usually, you just
Mm-hmm.
from your own experience, you could probably know why this deal didn't work or whatever. But obviously, because I'm working with Claude or OpenAI or whatever tool I'm using, it doesn't have that context, right? And so what I've been able to do is like I just keep track of all of this in a simple Google sheet. It's literally like a few columns, but now I've been able to just like upload it to it. And one of the features I don't think a lot of people are talking about because it hasn't really been like hyped is each of these platforms have rolled out skill features. And
Mm-hmm.
if you think about the skill features of today, all they are like files with some instructions, but that's MVP. One of the things that they're obviously chasing right now is continual learning, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
a form of what I've been able to do with my spreadsheet and give it to the skill and turn it into a skill is a way to like kind of, bake in that idea of like continual learning. So like literally every Monday I take all the deals I worked on that week, upload it again, tell it. And so there's a lot of opportunities I think for people to look at their own task and really get clear on like, okay, using your judgment, what is a right or wrong answer, right? Because if you're not going to do it, the the writing is on the wall. The money is being spent to do this
Mm-hmm.
already. And so I think that's one way people could potentially protect or even better participate in this, automation or augmentation, however you want to frame it, that is like happening.
Verification. Verification is a very big deal, especially when you consider all these industries, especially the high stakes ones. For example, health or science, or health a lot of times relies on science, and you want to use things like ChatGPT and Claude for it, but you know uh, you know if it's just doing probabilistic thinking, which is most of what this stuff does, you kind of can't really trust it. And so verifiable outputs and whatnot are going to be very important. That's going to lead to a lot of there's this stuff is going to take a while to build, but the thing is, the momentum is insane. I can't stress enough how it is going to change everything. And I also think, I kind of understand what Dre's saying, where it's like, I'm not trying to keep up with it all. You know what I'm saying? Because this stuff is being, ChatGPT or OpenAI is pushing, they're shipping every 3 days at this point. At the current rate, they may start shipping every day, in 9 months, 6, 9 months, because they're literally, unless something stops the momentum, uh, it won't stop. Now it will. Usually there is something on the horizon that will stop the momentum, but it seems like this is one of those things where the players involved have the ability to anticipate the bottlenecks and do something about them before they become an issue. So one of the issues that I've been hearing about is, like the precious metals thing. I heard about it a few months ago, but it's getting more and
Oh
more,
Lord.
sounded now. Energy is being sounded more now. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
Even though we heard about that, last year, because the sheer amount of all, like even SpaceX getting approved to have AI chips in space, which Sam came on and said like told Elon good luck, which I thought was funny because there is something like Elon's a very bold person, but like yeah, that's doesn't seem like we could do that quickly. Like, what I'm saying? Like, and chips are expensive. You want to buy a ton of chips and then send them out and then they blow up in space. That may not be, but it's ambitious though. And I like where his brain goes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel like at this point, he's just trying to be right. So he's just trying to say, hey, look, I came up with the idea. You know what I'm saying? Because he's kind of, I think the powers that be have lost control of where this is all headed to. um, a lot of things are going to speed up to a level that is still, even for example, science, right? I once heard an analogy where, even I think it was Sam who said something along the lines of, imagine a whole data center or AI center focus on scientific advancements. So that's all it does. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't offer APIs to anybody. It doesn't do any, you know, basically conceptually what he's saying is that for all the serious problems in society, could we theoretically have a data center completely for particular problems that and where it can work continuously? Now, now the thing is though is that there are some things that are going to simply just take time because you need to actually verify something. So, for example, you might have a ton of different theories, but if they have not automated the verification of it, so for example, ChatGPT can come up with a new antibiotic, but if it's not connected to the machines that create the antibiotics, and it's not also not connected to the machine that will, can have the bacteria so that it can test the result, like, and then like it will there'll be gaps. But as you can see, I've almost described a machine where, for example, in that case, let's say you have a machine that can produce bacteria constantly, it can make test tubes or whatever. It's automated with AI. AI is coming up with different, antibiotics on the spot. It's mixing them immediately on the spot, and then running the experiment in a particular test tube. And it can do that all day. It could be 1,000 test tubes, and then if it has the ability to test each test tube, then maybe we're able to find stuff quicker. And but we're quite a bit away from that because there's a lot of precision in that. Um, but that's just one thing I think about, which is could be very, and so I think that's why they're investing in this stuff because they're saying, look, we're gonna make the money. Like, we're gonna make the money. Like, it is not normal to have almost $1 trillion going into an industry in a handful of
No,
years. That's
no.
insane.
And this at this point, this is like, I mean, you would consider smart money, right? Like,
Yes.
if it was dumb money, there's all right, those are the dummies, right? Like they're just throwing money at the wall. I mean, you would think this is sophisticated money, so you would think they got the models and they've thought about like how to get these returns, right? Because I mean,
Facts.
this is just unprecedented amount of just capital that's just been deployed at something where there's no clear return, like right now, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think one company I think is going to really surprise people on their return. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be Meta. I don't think people really understand how good Manus is when it comes to like being an agent. And I think I mean, I think they got to $100 billion in revenue, like damn near on the same pace as like some of the other top companies. But then two, before they had the whole Chinese narrative, like they started in China, had to move out of China to be able to do business with America, etc. And I think when you get a brand and you get a distribution network, because like once again, I think when people think of Meta, they think of the consumer network, but there's a ton of advertisers and like real companies that spend real money that use that. I think you're going to see, man, it's crazy to think if Anthropic is saying that like they're on pace within the next 2 years to do 80, I think it was like $80 billion in enterprise revenue. I think Meta could do that. I think Meta could do that. Like I think you could easily see an 11, 12 figure business pop up on that end. Um, and I'm really excited to,
I
you know,
think Meta's doing too many things.
what do you
I think
mean?
Meta's doing too. I think they're just doing. I literally think they're doing too many things.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think if I'm them, uh, so one, I think they're at war in every business they have. I think they're at war in social media business. Um, Although Instagram is very strong, it's one of their best investments they ever made. So Instagram's still pretty strong. I think Facebook, it still is legacy, so it's pretty strong. But um, TikTok threatens that because at the end of the day, attention it's an attention economy, and there's not unlimited attention. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a fact. Attention is scarce. Um, Another thing is that um, there's a lot of forces that are making it less likely that people spend their attention on these type of products because Facebook makes money off you being distracted in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be honest. Facebook makes money off of us being distracted. Now, every now and then it will connect us to a friend or a family member, but for the most part, it makes money off of distraction. And when there's a time of building happening, that's actually one of the biggest threats to that business. Because when you're building, you're more focused. You're not, there's that aspect. And then another aspect is that they tried to hop into AI and did some huge investments into AI, right? Those didn't go well. They had to fire a lot of that team. They tried to do poach. They tried to pay top dollar for this talent. And I think it's funny that talent got fired because a lot of that talent was coming from OpenAI, and I think, you know, Meta kind of embarrassed them in a lot of ways because if you leave OpenAI to go to Meta and then y'all fail to do the job and then now you don't got nothing. You know what I'm saying? You was chasing the money. Um, and Sam actually ended up being right. He's like, if it took money for these people to leave, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? So fired most of that team. They've rehired people, of course, but they're not making any noise as far as AI right now. Not to say they don't have the capability; they're just not making any noise. And then the third thing would be is that they have this glasses thing, and or this VR and mixed reality type of world they're trying to figure out. And so you know uh, they are ahead a bit. So basically, they've already beat Snap. Snap just didn't have the capital to invest in R&D. Snap was first, but they didn't have the capital to invest in the glasses. So Meta is beating them on the glasses. There was even a Super Bowl commercial, pretty good, decent with the glasses. I'm a fan of the Meta glasses. I've tried the new Meta display
Have you tried
glasses.
the? Is it the Oakley ones they came out with?
I haven't tried the Oakley ones, but I've tried the new Meta display ones where you can see inside of you could. There's a screen inside of the glasses. There's a new store on Melrose, brand new store that opened up a few months ago. I've tried the display glasses, and I see the potential, but I think they're rushed. Like they're trying to build quickly, so it's kind of a rush product. It doesn't not that smooth, doesn't work that well. But I see the potential of where it's going. Seeing a display in the screen is really cool. But also they're getting killed, or if they're not getting killed, maybe what they'll do is they might get lucky and be able to beat Android on the mixed reality side because of their speed. But I guess they're probably relying on Android on the bottom. I don't really know what their software is relying on, but they might be able to beat. Basically they're going to be the lower end mixed reality from what I can tell. I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately Apple's going to win the over the face uh, technology, whether it's the Vision Pros or the mobile glasses that will come out. And it's just because when I tried the demo of all, and I've tried all these products, Apple is the closest to delivering on an experience that looks crazy. Like the attention to detail to the visual aspects inside of the screen, it actually is breathtaking. When I literally can feel like I'm in. There's this video of Snoop in the studio. I'm feeling like Snoop is like right there. Or there's like these videos of people, having birthday parties, and you feel like you're at the party with these people. You know what I'm saying? Like at their kid's birthday party or something, and then or you could be courtside and you're feeling like you're literally. And I actually didn't think that was possible. I actually did not think it was possible because I've had the Oculus. I've had Oculus, and it didn't hit that level of detail and picture quality. So if I had to guess, Meta doesn't have the talent or the expertise to hit that level of detail. And I think Mark is just trying to run fast. I think he's a good CEO, but I think he's doing too many things. I think he's distracted. Um, Not saying they're going to go out of business, but I think he's doing too many things.
I think the one thing Meta does have on their side, luckily, I agree with you. They totally are distracted. They're doing a lot of stuff. The one thing they do have is they did the one thing right in the entrepreneurial journal, which is they solidified the cash machine.
Oh
They got
yeah,
a cash machine that just prints fucking money, and so
yeah,
because of that, they can afford to put 100 billion here, 100 billion there, and if it don't work out, it's no big deal. which is crazy to think about. Like you can get to that point as a company, but they are at that point. They just make so much money printing, so they're just so profitable. They can afford to take some of these bets that, to your point, may not work out. Some haven't worked out at all, and they've just wasted money. I mean,
Yeah,
then some have, and they just still haven't been able to figure out how
yeah.
to really monetize it yet. Like I would say, WhatsApp is kind of like in that position where WhatsApp is by far, like I would say, probably outside of WeChat, the most ubiquitous messaging app in the world. But I
Right.
don't know if they figured out how to actually turn that into a business. I don't know how big WhatsApp is as a business.
Hmm.
Um, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do.
I
I
mean,
never count Zuck out. He's still young. He got patience and hundreds of billions, so he can keep taking
Well,
shots on goal
I think the good sign with Zuck right now is that he's moving. He knows his life is on the line. He
for
has
sure.
that cash machine, but he
It won't
knows
last forever.
because what is AI? AI is a revolution in productivity. Like
Mm,
that. Like that's a threat to the business. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when people are laying down, scrolling through Instagram and Facebook and looking at their Facebook feed and the stories and all that. When people are spending more time doing that, Facebook is doing great because then now they can
hmm
sell these ads. Um, but if there becomes a revolution on productivity, oh, you in trouble. You in trouble. And I'm not saying everybody's gonna hop up and start building, but you know, and especially if things get bad, people will cut out distractions. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? If they start losing jobs, yeah, you ain't gonna be distracted all day. You gonna be up working. You gonna be doing something. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so, yeah, he needs to move quickly away from the attention economy, which I think was a bad economy. I think it is equivalent or worse than the cigarette economy, tobacco industry, um, and you know, I think it's going to always exist. But you know, I think Apple is perfectly aligned. But Apple, people may say they're losing the AI race, but really, honestly, they're just focused. Um, I guess they've decided, hey, look, we'll stay out of that game. Because their patience is gonna. I think they're gonna come up with the next big computing platform.
Apple.
Um, yes, yes.
Hmm.
Glasses, glasses. Like just try the Vision Pros if you haven't already. It's just gonna be the glasses. It's like once I put the Vision Pros on, I'm like it's gonna be the glasses. It's like because it's gonna converge. It's gonna converge. Actually, this AI revolution actually is perfect for the glasses.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's gonna be a lot that you'll be able to do just by talking, and so you actually the interfaces may be a lot lighter. Um, the interfaces might be a lot lighter. So yeah, it'll be the glasses. It'll be the glasses. Uh, I don't really care about whatever OpenAI is making. I don't even think they were trying to compete with Apple, but um, it's the glasses. But Facebook, their benefits that it was a strong, like Dre said, it was a strong business made. So
Hmm.
he has time and he's working with urgency now. And if he does that, then yeah, it will survive. I think the glasses, he's doubling down on those two. I think the glasses, he's still worried, I think, but he's doubling down on the glasses, which I think is a good move. I really think the products are too early though, like the
Yeah.
display glasses.
I think everybody's worried about Apple. If you're a consumer company in general, you got to be worried about Apple. They're just the gold standard.
Yeah,
They're the gold standard. Because what quickly happens, and you probably know this from being in hardware, right? Like software can only take you so far, right?
right.
At some point, you got to deal with the physical physics limitations of just what shit is. And when you're dealing with precision manufacturing at scale, at volume, at the quality, like it's only a handful of companies that can do that and can continue to hit that out the park, product after product after product after product at scale. And it's just a hard thing to do, bro. It's just really tough to do. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of these companies are going. I mean, shit. I mean, look at even Waymo. I mean, we talked about Waymo, but like Waymo didn't try to build their own car. That shit isn't. It's hard. It's hard to do that shit. They had to go partner. This is Alphabet, like the company with all the money, who could have easily tried to do this shit, spend hundreds of billions trying to do it, and justifiably would have been like, okay, that cool, that makes sense. You want to be vertically integrated, but they didn't do it because it's hard to do it. So I don't know, man. I think Apple definitely has an advantage there because they just know how to make shit.
I think that's why I'm not really worried. And also, I guess you're right, because they're the portal at the end of the day. They're the portal. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? At the end of the day, everybody has the iPhone or some type of smartphone, and for the most part, it's, you know, and even if people have Android, Google doesn't get all the benefit out of that because they don't make all the Android devices. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Apple makes every iPhone, so they're
Mm-hmm.
getting all the value, software and hardware value out of having the phone. And yeah, I just think Apple's the portal, and that's the way. It's the portal to the other world. If that's the best way I can put it, the analogy that it's the portal to the other world, um,
Mm-hmm.
the machine world, maybe is the way I might describe it. Um,
For sure.
yeah.
One thing I am interested to see in relation to Apple was I'm sure y'all saw that whole what was it called, Open Claude or whatever people have been
Yes.
going crazy about, Open Claw or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But Apple ended up coming out and saying across all their stores in the US they were sold out of Mac Minis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me that is insane. That is insane. Just because, and once again, I don't know who the buyers were, but for the Mac Mini is meant to be for, I would say like prosumers, and so for someone to go out, I mean, people to go out buy their own compute just to be able to have this thing work for themselves, like,
Oh, that's a good point. Damn, Apple not stressed.
yeah,
Nah,
that's a
man.
very interesting angle for them.
Yeah, because you know what, No, I did notice. Yeah, they may not have these huge models, but the hardware, the chips that they've been putting, that new M2, M3 chip, and all that, their own chips make that was a smart move, and
100%.
it's a very smart move because it's going to be even more valuable. I guess the hardware will be more valuable because you'll be able to do things more than. And actually, I'm actually thought now I'm starting to think I should get a Mac Mini. Um, uh, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought about buying one too. I heard the All In guys, they were talking about it. And I was like, damn, I should buy one of these. I should buy one too. I just got a new the MacBook Pro, the M5, and man, that shit is nice. I'm not gonna lie. Apple is
Yeah, I got the
to go
yeah,
into their own chips, smart, like very
yeah.
smart. Timing was smart. The way they did it, like weeding away Intel off their shit, like bro, just tactically brilliant, and it's clearly working. They clearly saw where everything was going, and they're perfectly positioned to take full advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Well, guys, do we have any more topics? I mean,
What else we
I
got?
could do another. We have one. I mean, my bedtime is. I do got a bedtime. I know. I'm a grown man with a bedtime. But
I mean, we can wrap
I
it
do have a
there.
sec.
Y'all got some. I don't have nothing else on mine. Y'all got
Okay.
anything else?
Let's see. Let's
I
see.
think
Let's
just
see.
rapid fire topics, like, things that people should be paying attention to, just because it is a very pivotal time in the world. I think the first one I would say is money is changing. Like, I think, in the circles of, big bankers, hedge funders, things of that nature, that has kind of been the narrative for like the past few years. But I think over the last year, um, you saw the evidence start to really show itself, and it showed itself in metals. And usually the way to kind of think of, these metal markets is a hedge against, potential, like, inflation, lack of trust in the US system, things of that nature, the economy. But a lot of it is being driven by structural changes in terms of like, how do we even, trade now as countries? And I think that is going to end up finding its way into the home of everyday people. And the first way it's going to show up is, it's very evident. We live in an economy where if you own assets, you are going to do well under Trump. If you don't own assets, you're probably going to struggle. And so the stock exchange recently just said that they're going to be moving all stocks to the blockchain. And this is very important because one, it unlocks 24/7 trading. So right now the stock market is open what, Monday to Friday, and now it's going to be open 7 days a week. So you probably should expect like liquidity, et cetera, to happen, but also there's like downfalls of it. But the other thing too, it's kind of getting at is, and we were kind of talking about this, is like just this, the world is moving towards a place where there's going to be money moving faster than we know it. And another thing I would tell people to pay attention to is like the banking system. So right now, in the Supreme Court, it's called the Clarity Act. And so if you haven't been following like the CEO of Coinbase, he has been arguing for this for a minute. And essentially what it's trying to get at is big banks, literally all the big banks. So, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Bank of America, literally came out and said that if they approve this, they are afraid that $6 trillion is going to leave the banking system in a hurry, and that the big banks may go on a bank run. And essentially what they're trying to do is move everything to stable coins. And because stable coins are essentially backed by US treasuries that pay interest, this law is now trying to pay the interest from the stable coins back to consumers. And it would be, more than a few percentage points than what you are already getting on your savings account in your regular bank. So think, potentially 5 to 10%. If your bank is giving you, 2 to 3% on your savings account, and that's not even a high yield savings account, why would you put your money in the bank? And so that's kind of like the logic here. And they're supposed to be making a decision here probably within the next few weeks, a month. So those are just some of the things that I've really been paying attention to, metals and like the monetary system, because I do think within the next year, that's going to have very real implications for our money, but also like the economies of countries kind of going forward.
Man. Yeah.
I do have something. Um, yeah, yeah. I guess I'll end with a bang. We started off positive, but I end with somewhat a little bit of a bang. There's a few characters in the world that I want to speak on. One, just as a reminder to everybody, Diddy will be back on the streets in about 18 months. Just that he'll be back on the streets. Not That's not a problem. At least for me. You know what I'm saying? I just want to just remind everybody that we didn't really talk a lot about that because we were like handling our own stuff. It's a little bit of a distraction, but let me bridge it to another topic. Epstein. Um, Epstein was a character who I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about. I'm not going to update everybody on that, but you know, uh, there has been a collective awakening of how people in power move. I think for the people on this call, we already kind of know how people in power move, but based on the reactions that I often see on Twitter or on the news, etc., people are really shocked about some of these things that were done in the dark, and it's a very unfortunate situation. And I think that I'm kind of building on some points. There's a reason why I'm bringing these things up. So there's becoming more trust loss in very, very powerful people, and a lot of these powerful people around the world. I'm not going to name any particular names. I'm just going to say like lots of different suspicions, lots of different things being proven. Some of these people are considered royalty in some places. It's a big deal, and one of the reasons why it's a big deal is because a lot of our system relies on people trusting the authority of the system, and trusting the integrity of the system. And when very powerful people, do things that go against the system, usually that's not a problem if they get held accountable. You know what I'm saying? But what I think people are seeing is that the more likely scenario is that a lot of people are not going to be held accountable. And some will, some won't. Um, but I think it's kind of like almost like a shattering of the worldview. if you came in, you thought you were safe, you thought that the systems work a certain way, you're saying, wait, hold on. You're being reminded that the system doesn't work as you expect, even when the victims are some of the most vulnerable type, people. Um, and, then I'll lead us to another thing. Brylan touched on, the reduced trust in the U.S. system, uh, and um, and he's talking more about monetary. But I just want to point out that in general, um, you know, there is a slow erosion of trust that's probably been happening for a while, maybe for the last few decades. At least for me, I know, like, my parents grew up telling me like how, they had so much more trust in the communities. Parents, trusted the communities to correct, like whether it was teachers or grandmothers or other parents. It was a more of a, and maybe those were days it was just ignorance. Maybe there was just bad stuff going on, and the trust came from ignorance. And I think what we're seeing now is that we've reached a point now where everything's on record, everything's recorded. There's all these traces. For example, with Epstein, emo was relatively new when people were saying all those things. They probably did not think that any of that would ever come out. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, and so, just a quick parallel, just so you guys know, AI is not protected. And, you can imagine, I don't think anybody's doing any crazy things, obviously on this call, but to anybody on the audience listening, there may, just remember, like, one day, what you type in AI may be like how, may be exposed to the public in some way. And if you have
Hmm.
done nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Or if you've done something wrong, hopefully it's something that can actually be understood, as opposed to, the things that we're seeing today with like the Epstein emails, etc. And then, but I guess the pattern across all this is that there is an erosion of trust happening at almost every single level. And which, when that starts to happen, you know, kind of bad things start to happen. Bad things start to happen. And I'm not trying to, be an alarmist. I'm trying to keep people concrete, grounded in reality so that you can do something about these things, because they haven't tipped yet. You know what I'm saying? But, and and my prediction is this, that things, and another example would be colleges. A lot of young people are really feeling struggle about getting jobs right now, more than, there was already that, but I'm seeing it even more now.
Hmm.
College graduates, even, for example, I saw, even these Stanford computer science graduates starting to feel, you know like pains getting jobs, like, and I never would have ever considered, some, those that used to be a guarantee. You went to Stanford, went to computer science, you're guaranteed a job almost. And so, if at the elite level there's friction, yeah, I'm sure they'll get jobs. But imagine if it's hard for them, then imagine where it's at these other places. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, that reduces trust in the educational system. They give you a deal at 17, 18 years old, saying, hey, look, pay us a ton of money, and we will tell you exactly what to do to be successful. And, obviously, that's what the kids believe. And the parents will they sell their parents on it, and their parents invest. And, and so then you start to think that there's less trust in this degree, there's less credibility in this degree, there's less, there's less value in it. And I'm not saying that there's no value, but my whole point around everything that I'm bringing up, and this ended up being pretty long, but hopefully you guys are still with me, which is that trust is going to be very important. And Brylan even touched on it earlier about verified outcomes. Okay, AI is giving you an answer, but is it the right answer? You know,
Hmm.
you're going online, and you see the news, but is it really true? Does that really happen? You're scrolling through Instagram, you see a video, is that like a real video, or is that AI? You're hearing a phone call. Did somebody clone somebody's voice, or is that a real call? And so what I'm trying to get across to everybody is that, please do not miss this message. It is a very, very meticulous message. It's a very, very important message that, I spent a lot of time observing and seeing. And trust no one. Tupac said this about 20 something years ago.
Hmm.
I will repeat this: trust no one. And I'm not saying trust no one because they have a bad character or they're bad people. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that at all. There are many good people. In fact, I would say most people are good people. What I would say is this, though, from a compassionate standpoint, I will say this: people do things, and it's not personal. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they do all these things. Or, for example, somebody could be going through a mental health issue, and they don't even know it. Mental health degrades slowly, and they might be seeing things, hearing things, their thoughts are all over, but presenting normally. You know what I'm saying? So when I say trust no one, I'm not telling you to live a life of paranoia. I'm not telling you to live this life where this. There's just like like you're paranoid. You stay in the house. You don't do anything. You become a hurt. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, trust the actions and trust your intuition and your inner voice. And because the actions will reveal all, and trust no one because the world is changing and everybody won't go through that well. If the things that Dre is talking about really happen, where there's a lot of job loss, I trust me. And I say trust. It's ironic. I say trust me, but you will see another side of people that you may not have seen in more stable times. And I just want people to know that uh, don't worry about it too much because the main thing is focus on today. Get what you need to do. Get your whatever you need to do today, and tomorrow will work itself out.
Wow.
Well
Well
put.
said. Well said. Let's wrap it up then.
All right, guys.